Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Arun Singh Thakur from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Today we are going to discuss about the module Consumer Protection Act of 1986 and Tourism from the paper Tourism and Hospitality Entrepreneurship and Legal Environment. This module deals with describing one of the most successful laws made by India after independence. After studying this module, you will be able to define the term consumer, understand the historical background and post independence development of laws for consumer protection, know the rights of consumers, explain the current scenario of consumerism in India, and know about the various reliefs provided under the Consumer Protection Act. Let us start. In the growing societies worldwide, thereby growing businesses, consumer rights are important part of our lives. Consumer rights have become the part of our daily routine life. The markets are getting global day by day, and so many products and services are offered to the consumers by the local as well as the global players. Customer in the present scenario needs to have the awareness about his or her own rights being a consumer. Nowadays, consumer rights are well defined by various agencies of the governments, and implementation of the same with the help of the code as well as non-government organization for safeguarding the interest of the consumer. The rights of the consumers are well protected by the laws, but still the responsibility of the consumer is one area which needs to be defined further. Making mankind aware about the quality of the consumer is a phenomena which developed during spectacular increase in the offer of goods and services, and at the same time with the competition which has reached a very large level, any individual can obtain the quality of the consumer, his rights in the quality of consumer being nothing else by the human rights. One of the most useful laws made by the Government of India post independence is this Consumer Protection Act of 1986. This act provides protection to the right of consumer through various established consumer councils or courts. This act is also considered as a milestone for the protection of rights of general public at large. The present Consumer Protection Act was passed by Lok Sabha on the 5th of December 1986 and in Rajya Sabha on 10th of December 1986. After this act coming into force, through its publication in the Gazette of India, the different consumers redressals agencies have been set up in the entire country with the distinct forums at district level forum, state level commissions and national level commission to provide justice to the customers, which is inexpensive and quick. Now students, let's have a look upon the background. When such regulations or laws were not there in the past, it was the responsibility of the buyer to be aware for the goods or the services he or she wants to purchase. The markets work done with this principle earlier. In India, the first step towards protecting the rights of the consumer was taken during the time of Khilji, the Mughal emperor. History says that they introduced a price control measures based on the cost of production. They also introduced different markets for different goods and created different shopping centers in Delhi, one for grocery, the other is for the grain and for trading of livestock. For these created markets, they ordered the producers to sell their products in these markets. After that, in the British rule, the main focus was on the administration and major policies were concerned with protecting British government rights and interests. So, the law came into force during British rule serves the interest of the rulers only. However, few laws related to protection of the interest were there. The prominent were the Indian Penal Code 1860, Sales of Goods Act 1932, Drugs and Cosmetics Act of 1940 and Dangerous Drugs Act of 1930. Now, let's have a look upon the scenario after independence. India got independence on 15th of August 1947. We all know that. But it was the beginning of the new era also. The government of India started emphasizing industrial revolution through its second 5-year plan, which results in establishing many heavy industries. This transforming India bring rural population to the urban centers in search of the jobs and better living standards, thereby increased needs of the goods and services, including the luxury item, was on the rise. The market then became unregulated from the point of view of the prices, and adulteration also goes up. The government of India felt the need of a law to control the production, quality on the prices of the commodities, along with empowering the consumers, and paved a way to enacting Consumer Protection Act of 1986. Now, we'll discuss the objective of Consumer Protection Act. The provision of the Act in the light of its preamble reads as an act to provide better protection of the interest of consumer for the settlement of consumer dispute and for matter connected therewith. The word protection furnishes the key to the mind of the makers of the act. Its provision has to be interpreted in favor of the consumer in such a manner as to provide maximum relief to him. The primary duty of the court while constructing provisions of the act is to adopt a constructive approach. It should not do violence to the provisions and should also not contrary to attempted objective of the act. This act has not been framed to provide a loophole and excuses to well-organized traders, producers, and big business houses and manufacturers on the technical grounds. The Consumer Protection Act of 1986 provides for the better protection of consumers. Unlike existing laws, which are punitive or preventive in nature, the provisions of this Act are compensatory in nature. The Act is intended to provide simple, speedy, and inexpensive redressal to the consumer's grievances, award relief and compensation wherever appropriate to the consumer. Now we'll discuss the objectives of Consumer Protection Act. The main objectives of Consumer Protection Act of 1986 is to protect the interest and safeguard the rights of the consumer, which are as follows. 1. Right to protect against the marketing of goods and services which are hazardous to life and property. Then 2. Right to inform about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, standard and price of the goods or services so as to protect the consumer against unfair trade practices. Right to assure, wherever possible, access to variety of goods and services at competitive prices. And the fourth one is right to hear and to assure that the consumer's interest will receive due consideration at appropriate forums. What are consumer rights? Consumers in the advanced countries obviously are much more conscious of their rights than the countries like India, who is in the stage of development. In 1962, President John F. Kennedy and in 1965, President Johnson emphasized the consumer rights and gave impetus to consumerism in the United States of America and other countries as well. The important consumer rights includes right against exploitation by unfair trade practices, then right to the protection of health and safety from the goods and services the consumers buy or are offered free, then right to be informed of the quality and performance standards, ingredients of the product, operational requirements, freshness of the product, possible adverse side effects, and other relevant facts concerning the product or the service. Then there has a right to be heard if there is any grievance or suggestion, then right to get genuine grievances redressed, right to choose the best from the variety of offers. Then also there is a right to physical environment that will protect and enhance the quality of life. Now, what is consumer protection? The role of the government, business, and consumers. These three parties, the government, business, and consumers, need to have played an important role for the effective consumer protection. The key responsibility here is with the business, which needs to maintain a system in the distribution channel, results in paying due regards to the consumer rights. Extent and coverage of Consumer Protection Act. The Act applies to all goods and services unless specifically exempted by the central government. It covers all the sectors, whether private, public, or cooperative. The provisions of the Act are compensatory in nature. The provisions of this Act are in addition to and not in derogation of the provisions of any other law for the time being in force. The Act envisages establishment of consumer protection councils at the central and state levels, whose main objects will be to promote and protect the right of the consumers. Further, the structure of Consumer Protection Act will discuss. For the redressal system, there is three-tier system enacted by the Act. The first is the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, which is known as National Commission, deals with complaints involving costs and compensation higher than rupees 1 crore. The second level is State Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, which is known as State Commission and deals with complaints involving cost and compensation higher than rupees 20 lakhs and less than rupees 1 crore. The third level is District Consumer Disputes Redressal Forums, which are known as District Forum, deals with complaints involving costs and compensation which is less than rupees 20 lakhs. The picture represents all the three forums, that is National Commission, State Commission and District Commission, having National Commission at the top and District Forum at the bottom. Now students will try to understand who is called as consumer as per the Consumer Protection Act. We all are consumers of goods and services in daily life routines. In Consumer Protection Act, the word consumer is defined separately for goods and services. The provision of the Act explains consumer for the purpose of product as any person, one who buys or agrees to buy any goods for a consideration which has been paid or promised or partly paid and partly promised or under any system of deferred payment, and it includes any user of such goods other than the person who actually buys goods, and such use is made with the approval of the purchaser. Further, we can explain with the help of the picture that who is consumer. A consumer is someone who buys goods such as food, clothes, mobile phones, books, magazines, appliances from a shop or other source. A consumer is also someone who buys a service usually from a specialist such as an electrician, technician, hairdresser, beautician, bus driver or a travel agent. So, a consumer buys goods or services for his or her personal use. It is a point to note here that a person is not a consumer if he purchases goods for commercial or resale purposes. However, the word commercial does not include use by consumer of goods bought and used by him exclusively for the purpose of earning his livelihood by means of self-employment. For example, a person is purchasing a car and using it as a taxi for earning his livelihood. Then, for the purpose of services, a consumer means a person belonging to the following categories. One who hires or avails of any service or services for a consideration which has been paid or promised or partly paid and partly promised or under any system of deferred payment, and it includes any beneficiary of such service other than the one who actually hires or avails of the service for consideration, and such services are availed with the approval of such person. What is consumer dispute? Consumer dispute means a dispute where the person against whom a complaint has been made denies or disputes the allegations contained in the complaint. What is defect means? Defect means any fault, imperfection or shortcoming in the quality, quantity, potency, purity or standard which is required to be maintained by or under any law for the time being in force, as is claimed by the trader in any manner whatsoever in relation to any goods or service. Now, dear students, we'll try to understand the exploitation of the consumers. By and large, consumers are exploited almost on daily basis for their rights. The businessman employs many unfair trade practices which results in violation of the rights of consumers. It has been commonly seen that marketing experts utilizes their skills to take benefit of the soft corners of customers along with unawareness about the products are available to make an impression of the goods and services which is not a fact. So, with the tactful misleading practices, they are able to sell out their products to the customers by using unfair practice which violates the rights of consumers. The process initiates with the responsibility of the producer to maintain a high standard for the goods and services produced. The manufacturer is also responsible for the delivery of the goods and services to the end users in their perfect state and fulfill the service requirements after sale. The second pillar in protecting consumers' right is the role of the government. Customer is considered as the weaker party as compared to the businessman, which makes the responsibility of the government to protect consumers more. The provisions of the Consumer Protection Act lay down a redressal system at district, state, and at national level. Lastly, consumerism in the customers should be accepted in order to ascertain and enjoy the rights. Consumerism is the philosophy which makes the business and the government to play the respective role by pressurizing the government to enforce legal rights and making business honest in view of those legal provisions. Students will try to understand the consumer protection and consumerism in India. Following are the key factors making a plight of consumers miserable. The first is shortage of supply of essential goods. In the Indian market, the demand and supply for essential goods is very vulnerable. The black marketers to fetch high profits involved in corruption, nepotism, and holding of such essential items, which results in unnecessary competition and price hike. There are the examples of price rise in the onion in the last decade. The second is unnecessary competition in the Indian market. Competition among sellers, even though imperfect, may be regarded as effective or workable if it offers buyers real alternatives sufficient to enable them by shifting their purchases from one seller to another, substantially to influence quality, service, and price. Effective competition depends also on the general availability of essential information. Buyers cannot influence the behavior of sellers unless alternatives are known. It requires the presence in the market of several sellers, each of them possessing the capacity to survive and grow, and the preservation of conditions which keep alive the trait of potential competition among the sellers is thus to be found in the availability of buyers of genuine alternatives in policy among their sources of supply. The next point focuses upon awareness level in the consumers of India is quite low as compared to the developed markets in the world. The market is a global space now, and the products from all over the world are available in the Indian market as well. The customers in India are not aware about the quality and the price of such imported products. This makes the suppliers to take an advantage of the awareness of the customers, which results in violating the customer rights. The next point is non-availability of the information and poor literacy level of the consumers is another problem. Most of the population of India lives in villages, having a very limited access to information along with low level of literacy. This fact of consumers encourages the sellers to involve in unfair trade practices. Then legal process in India is scary, and most of the population is not ready for legal course of action. Due to the time consuming and cumbersome legal process in India, most of the customers do not want it to be the part of it. Then consumerism in India is not well organized and developed. The next is the private sector is far ahead than the public sector in providing the product and services which fulfill the daily needs of consumers. This fact encourages the private sector to carry on with their monopolistic trade practices using unfair means. Then finally, apart from the Consumer Protection Act, there are many other laws related to manufacturing and production of the goods and services, but implementation of those laws is very poor, which give an opportunity for the sellers to do what they want. Further, we'll discuss the relief under the Consumer Protection Act. Reliefs provided under the Act of 1986 are as: first, the specific reliefs. The Act allows consumers to file a complaint on 5 specific grounds. The Act does not allow complaints to frame their relief as they do not wish, nor does they leave it to the consumer disputes redressal agencies to work out remedies according to their discretion. The reliefs possible are indicated in Article 14 of the Act. One can find below reliefs and obtainable in the case of each of the item of the complaint listed in Article 2(1)(c). Will describe about defects in goods. There are several remedies in respect of this. The first, removal of the defect pointed out by the laboratory. Then, removal of the defect in respect of goods not sent to laboratory analysis. Then, replacement of the goods. Then, finally, the return of the price. In respect of fungible goods, the removal of defect will not be any use to the complainant, but however, the order will be operative in future as regards the same goods and would serve the interest of all consumers. Clause A being restricted to defects pointed out by the laboratories, Clause E provides the relief in respect to other goods not sent to laboratory. It is true that the word goods is not found in that clause. The clause should normally read as the removal of the defects in the goods or deficiencies in the services in question, but it can be understood only such since one can gather from the definition of the word defect in clause 2 part 1f that it relates only to goods. Similarly, deficiency is only in respect of service. The complainant should therefore take care not to use the word defect for deficiency or vice versa. Now, what is deficiency in service? The reliefs are return of charges paid and removal of the deficiency. The removal of the deficiency is not always possible once service being rendered. Even if possible, it is no usually desired by the consumer who had a bad experience to resort to the same person for service. Then overpricing of articles. Return of the price against return of the article or reimbursement of the excess price. What is unfair trade practice and restrictive trade practice? The reliefs are to discontinue them or not to repeat them. Unfair trade practice and restrictive trade practice are defined in the Act with great accuracy. These words should be used only in cases contemplated in the definitions of those words, not in case of other grounds of complaint like defects in goods or overpricing because the reliefs in such cases are different. Hazardous goods. The reliefs for hazardous goods are not to offer the hazardous goods for sale and to withdraw the hazardous goods from being offered for sale. It is thus seen that for each ground of complaint there is one or more reliefs available which can be asked for alternatively or cumulatively. It is for the complainant to decide and to frame properly the reliefs with indication of respective clauses. So friends, let us discuss how to file a consumer complaint. A consumer, first of all, give notice to the company or the seller regarding the deficiency in the service or of unfair trade practice and ask to make loss good. If the opposite party refuses, then consumer can reach out to the consumer court depending upon the amount of the loss claimed and jurisdiction. A complaint should contain the following information. First, the name, description and the address of the complainant. Then the name, description and the address of the opposite party or the parties, as the case may be, as far as they can be ascertained. Then the facts relating to the complaint and when and where it arose. And then the documents, if any, in support of the allegations contained in the complaint. The relief which the complainant is seeking. The complaint should be signed by the complainant or his authorized agent. The complaint is to be filed within 2 years from the date on which cause of action has arisen. We'll discuss about the limitations of Consumer Protection Act 1986. Out of many positive things, there is only one limitation that can be pointed out is the district forum, the state commission or the national commission admits a complaint if it is filed within 2 years from the date on which cause of action has arisen. So students, let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. As per the preamble of Consumer Protection Act of 1986 reflect, this socio-economic law was enacted to provide for the better protection of the interest of the consumers, and for that purpose the Consumer Protection Act 1986 seeks to provide speedy and simple redressal to consumer disputes. The Act in its definition described two parts. The first part deals with the buyer and the user of the goods, and the second part covers the hirers and the beneficiaries of the services. So in conclusion, it would argue that consumer protection movement has got a bright future in India. Education and informing the consumers can lead to disappearance of some of the problems which have disappeared and make him aware about his rights, what makes his safety and satisfaction stronger in consuming a tourism product or other products or services. Apart from the government seriousness in the matter, consumer activists, organizations and other voluntary associations have also to pay their part in furtherance of the consumer movement. Above all, consumers have to be aware about their rights and should assert themselves in the marketplace. Thank you.